before smartphones, streaming, and instant messages. The 1980s were a very different world, slower, louder, and filled with simple pleasures that made everyday life feel special. In this nostalgic journey, we look back at the things we loved in the 80s that would completely confuse younger generations today. From recording songs straight off the radio and rewinding VHS tapes, to Saturday morning cartoons and being totally unreachable once you left the house. This video brings back the small moments that defined an entire generation. If you grew up in the 80s, these memories will hit hard. And if you didn't, prepare to be amazed. It was an era of big hair, neon colors, and a unique kind of freedom that feels almost unimaginable now. Life moved at the speed of a cassette tape, not a fiber optic cable. The world felt bigger because it hadn't been shrunk down to fit in our pockets. Every small victory, from capturing a song perfectly to finding the last copy of a new movie, was a genuine triumph. So, let's dust off those memories and dive into 10 things we cherished in the 1980s that would make absolutely no sense to anyone born after the year 2000. First up, the high-stakes art of recording songs from the radio. This wasn't as simple as clicking download or add to playlist. This was a mission that required patience, timing, and a bit of luck. You would wait for hours, sometimes an entire afternoon, glued to your radio, just hoping the DJ would finally play that one song you were obsessed with. Your fingers would hover over the record and play buttons on your cassette deck, a two-finger salute, ready for action. You'd tense up, listening intently, waiting for the first few notes to drop. The ultimate moment of heartbreak, a pain universally understood by every 80s kid, was when the DJ started talking over the intro. Your perfect recording was ruined, tainted by their voice announcing the weather, or giving a shout-out. It was a tragedy of epic proportions. But when you got it right, when you captured the whole song, clear from start to finish, the feeling was pure bliss. You'd carefully labeled the cassette tape in your messiest, most rushed handwriting, creating a mixtape that was a unique trophy of your dedication. These weren't just playlists. They were hard-won collections of musical moments. Next, let's talk about a sacred weekly ritual: Saturday morning cartoons. Long before on-demand streaming and binge-watching, Saturday mornings were a special, non-negotiable event. You'd wake up early, often before your parents, without any need for an alarm clock. The sheer excitement of the cartoon lineup was more powerful than any snooze button. You knew you had only one chance to watch your favorite show that week. If you missed it, you missed it. There were no replays, no catch-up services. The experience was always accompanied by a bowl of sugary cereal, usually one that was more sugar than grain, and the bowl itself often felt as big as your head. You'd sit cross-legged in front of the TV, mesmerized by the colorful animations and goofy sound effects, shoveling spoonfuls of cereal into your mouth. The magic, however, had a strict deadline. By lunchtime, the cartoons were over, replaced by boring adult programming, like golf or gardening shows. The fun was finite, which made every single minute of it that much more precious. Now for a chore that instilled a unique kind of fear and responsibility in all of us: rewinding VHS tapes. Renting a movie came with an unspoken social contract, often reinforced by a bright, friendly sticker on the cassette that read, "Be kind, rewind." Forgetting to rewind a tape before returning it to the video store was a cardinal sin. It meant the next person had to do it. And it also meant you were likely to get an earful from your parents or, even worse, a fine from the store. The process of rewinding felt like it took an eternity. You depop the tape into the VCR and listened to the worry sound as the machine slowly spooled the tape back to the beginning. Some people even bought dedicated tape rewinders, often shaped like sports cars, just to save their VCR's motor from the strain. But if the VCR was busy, you might have to resort to manual rewinding with a pencil or your finger, a painstaking task that taught you the true meaning of patience. Video stores weren't kidding about the fines either. They'd charge you an extra $1 or $2 for their inconvenience, a penalty that felt like a public shaming. Let's also remember what it was like to live a life without the internet. It's a concept that sounds almost impossible today, but in the 80s, information wasn't instantly accessible. If you needed to know a fact for a school project, you couldn't just Google it. You had to pull a heavy, dust-covered encyclopedia off the shelf and manually search for the information. Knowledge required physical effort. The same went for phone numbers. We didn't have a contact list in our pockets. We had to memorize the phone numbers of our best friends, our grandparents, and the local pizza place. Getting around was another adventure. There was no GPS, no digital maps telling you to turn left in 200 feet. If you got lost, you had to pull over and ask a real, live human for directions, or try to decipher a giant, foldable paper map that was impossible to refold correctly. Waiting was a fundamental part of life. Whether it was waiting for a TV show to air, waiting for a letter to arrive, or waiting for a friend to call back, you simply had to be patient. The world didn't operate on instant replies, and somehow, we all survived. Of course, you couldn't leave the house without your Walkman. This iconic device was the 80s equivalent of a smartphone and headphones. A portable music player that let you create a soundtrack for your life. It was a bulky plastic box that barely fits in your pocket, but it gave you the freedom to listen to your mixtapes anywhere. This freedom came at a cost, though. You had to carry a pocket full of AA batteries because the Walkman would chew through them at an alarming rate. Walking too fast or jogging would often cause the tape to skip or warble, a jarring interruption to your favorite song. And there was the delicate art of flipping the cassette halfway through. You'd hear the tape click to a stop, and you knew it was time to open the door, pop the tape out, flip it over, and press play again. Despite its flaws, wearing those bright orange or black foam headphones made you feel like the coolest person on the planet, completely lost in your own musical world. Before you could text a friend, you had to brave their house phone. This involved a multi-step social ritual. First, you'd dial their number and brace yourself, because you never knew who would answer. More often than not, it was a parent. You'd have to politely and nervously ask, "Hello, may I please speak to..." It was a nerve-wracking performance, especially if you had a crush on the person you were calling. The terror didn't stop there. There was always the risk that a parent or sibling was secretly listening in on another extension phone in the house. A common and infuriating practice. If the line was busy, your plans were ruined for the night. There was no call waiting, just a repetitive, frustrating, busy signal. And for those lucky enough to have long phone conversations, you were physically tethered to the wall by a long, coiled cord that would inevitably get stretched across rooms, tangled around furniture, and become a tripwire for everyone else in the household. An essential part of any 80s weekend was a trip to the video rental store. Places like Blockbuster or local mom-and-pop shops were palaces of entertainment. You could spend what felt like hours wandering the aisles, surrounded by endless rows of movie titles. The process of choosing a movie was a serious family debate, often involving passionate arguments over whether to get an action movie, a comedy, or a horror flick. The most coveted and most frustrating section was always the new releases. Well, all the latest hits were there, but the shelves were usually empty, with only the sad, hollow display boxes left behind. Your heart would sink when you realized someone had already rented the one movie you wanted to see. And if you forgot to return your movies on time, you faced the wrath of late fees. These fees could quickly add up, sometimes costing you more than the original rental price, serving as a harsh lesson in responsibility. In a world without DMS, texts, or emails, we communicated by writing letters and notes. In school, passing folded notes was the primary channel for secret communication. There was a whole art to folding them into intricate little squares or triangles, designed to be passed discreetly from desk to desk under the teacher's nose. The anticipation of getting a note back was thrilling. For friends or family who lived far away, you wrote actual letters on paper. You would take the time to choose special stationery or a nice pen, carefully crafting your words. Then you'd put it in an envelope, add a stamp, and drop it in a mailbox. The wait for a reply could take days, or even weeks, but that made receiving a letter in the mail feel like a truly special event. Many of us kept these treasured letters and notes in shoeboxes, under our beds, physical archives of our friendships and memories. One of the most profound differences between then and now was the simple fact that being unreachable was completely normal. When you left the house, you were truly disconnected. There were no smartphones to track your location, and no expectation of an instant reply to a message. If someone called your house while you were out, they simply missed you. There was no voicemail guilt or a log of missed calls to haunt you. This created a sense of privacy and freedom that is hard to come by today. Your time was your own. You could be late meeting friends, and they would just wait, assuming you were on your way. There was no flurry of, "Where are you?" texts. This lack of constant connection allowed for a different kind of presence. When you were with people, you were truly with them, not distracted by a screen. Privacy wasn't something you had to protect with settings. It was the default state of being. Finally, let's remember the toys. In the 80s, toys were powered by imagination, not by screens or apps. We built entire worlds with Lego bricks, staged epic battles with action figures, and solved Rubik's cubes for hours. Many toys felt wonderfully, and sometimes dangerously, analog. We rode bikes without helmets, built rickety forts in the backyard, and played outside until the streetlights came on, the universal signal that it was time to go home. Getting bored was a common occurrence, but it was also a gift. Boredom forced you to be creative. It's what led to inventing new games, drawing strange creatures, or simply lying in the grass and staring at the clouds. It was in those quiet, unstimulated moments that our imaginations truly thrived. The world of 80s play was tangible, a little risky, and endlessly inventive, fostering a sense of independence that feels almost impossible in today's structured and screen-filled childhoods. This isn't just nostalgia. It's a reminder of how different life felt when moments weren't rushed and memories weren't digital. Did you grow up in the 80s? Which of these do you miss the most? Let us know in the comments. If this brought back memories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more journeys back in time.